So hi, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to December's Working in Sustainable Technology. This month, we are exploring the topic of decarbonising freight transport. Very topical at this time of year. As Christmas approaches and people begin shopping for their Christmas presents, the strain on our transport system grows. So we thought this was the perfect time of year to run this session. Freight transport is essential to modern economies for us moving our goods across cities, countries, and continents, but it is a significant contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. And our demand for goods and logistics continues to grow, the need to reduce those emissions, whilst also maintaining efficiency and economic growth has never been more critical. So today we are joined by Neil Durno, Director of Market Development at Voltempo. Voltempo's mission is to develop EV charging technologies that encourage and facilitate a mass market transition to EVs. They are also working with the eFreight 2030 consortium members to deliver the zero-emission HGV infrastructure demonstrator. So really keen to learn more about that. But Neil, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome to inviting me to. Um, so yeah, fascinating topic. Picking up on one of your things just to start things rolling. Black Friday. Now, I don't know if people have picked up on the news about Black Friday, but there's a load of parcels that didn't get delivered because the network was swamped with parcels. But what it also means is carbon emissions went up massively because we all made demands of the transport logistics companies, and they were struggling to put vans out. So everything was out on the road. The roads were busy. There was a lot of carbon emissions, a lot of congestion, all the stuff we don't really want, right? And so it's a really interesting and hot topic about the CO2, the carbon footprint of transport logistics. And I'll come back to that point as to my motivations for what I'm currently doing. But in the sense of sharing with people how I got to where I am, you'll see on my backdrop, I've got a few images because I like talking off of images rather than words. I actually did 20 years with one company called RS Components. Some of you may know of RS Components. I did a lot of different jobs at RS Components. I think I was successful and respected, and I had a great team. So these guys here were some of my team at the end, and it was a great time. I learned a lot. But I had a career coach, and she asked me a question. Jane Seeley, I still remember her name. And Jane said, "How often do you go to the staff shop, Neil?" Scratch his head. Twice. What? Recently? No. During 20 years, just twice. Oh, that's interesting. Are you not interested in what we sell? And I thought, do you know what? I'm not. So I'd spent 20 years at a company enjoying the nature of my work. I had no affinity to what we were selling at all. She said to me, "What did you buy?" Tools. Okay. Do you use them? No, they were presents for my father-in-law. Oh, okay. Here's a challenge for you. Think about what it is that imagine a great job and imagine you actually cared about what you were selling and what you were involved in. And that really set the ball rolling. So that's my team. Then the question about this picture here, is that a sunset or is that a sunrise? Right. So after 20 years at the same company that was familiar and comfortable, I had a bit of a moment where I was like, gosh, I've come to the end of the road. I've reached my maximum potential. My boss has got a career coach asking me whether I need to work elsewhere. That was a bit of a shock. Obviously, that wasn't his prime motivation, but actually, it did me a real favour. It got me thinking. Now, I'm very risk averse, and that's what this next picture is, right? Take risks, but take measured risks, right? So that's me just about to dive into the hole of oblivion at Alton Towers, if anyone knows Oblivion. And the first time you go on it, it's really scary, right? Because that photo's taken, they paused you over the hole. And so you're there looking down thinking, don't know what's next, because the hole is full of smoke, right? And that's my analogy for making a move from a long-term, stable, known entity and going out into the big wide world of something else, something completely different. Jane also said to me, you won't have another 20-year career anywhere. In fact, probably your next three will probably not even be 2 years each. And I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, Jane. Yeah, I'm sure you know what you're talking about. She was so right. The longest time I've worked in any business since, and that's 16 years ago, is 3 and a bit years. Right. But what she got me to think about is my motivations. And that's what this is. I'm not a tree hugger, but I do really, really care about what we do to the planet. Right. And so the passion that she got me to seek and find was, how do I get into sustainability? How do I make my move into that place? And so I went to some industry events around renewables. I spoke to people that had been in that market for a bit longer, as it had developed in the UK. And I started to look for where I could make my skills work in that space. And so over here, in terms of the arrows, the archery, uh, having a target and something to aim for, I think is really vital rather than just thinking, what's the next job that uses my skills? Actually, what is it I'm passionate about? What is it I really want to do and make a difference on? And for me, that was reducing air pollution. That's the thing that I care about, close to my heart, son with asthma. And so I set off down that track. The next picture is actually all the different things I've done to try and get closer to the middle, to the bullseye, right? Because I have worked in a number of different businesses, a good number of different businesses, but each one has got me closer to the bullseye in terms of what I want to be doing. So my message there is, don't be afraid of trying some different things and developing and growing your skill set. And some of them won't be right. Okay. And then decide what you can afford to risk in terms of taking measured risks about moving on. Because it isn't as easy as deciding to leave and then hoping you can find another job. I don't know if it's still a truism, but at the time I was told it could take a month for every 10K of salary that you want to find the nature of the work you want. Okay, so if best to look from within, I would say, if you know you're not in a space that's developing you and giving you what you need, then prepare your parachute, start looking for other things. And I've done that throughout. I always have my parachute packed because you never know when the next opportunity arises. Okay, so however, and to sort of wrap up on me talking about how I've got to where I am, I have spent a lot of time, invested a lot of time in developing my network, my understanding of renewables and the transport sector. And I've gone from solar into energy storage, into market energy trading, aggregation of assets, electric batteries. There's the timer to tell me to stop. And then from there to electric cars and electric trucks. And so this one, wherever my finger appears, this final one is just 6 weeks ago, when I was part of the team that launched the first electric truck as part of our consortium onto the UK road, to actually be out there doing business sustainably, zero emission freight transport. So there you go. That's how I've got to where I am.
Perfect. That's great. And tell us more about Voltempo and what you're building there, the challenges that you're facing, and the tech.
Yeah, okay. So Voltempo is a recent startup led by a visionary guy called Michael Boxwell, who has done a lot of work in the electric vehicle market. He was involved in the development of the Nissan Leaf back in the early days, many, many years ago, well over a decade ago. And Michael secured funding from Innovate UK through the Department of Transport under what you tripped off your tongue earlier on, the ZHID program, Zero Emission HGV Infrastructure Development Program. And so we are very fortunate to have a very amazing group of collaborators, some of the biggest transport freight operators in the UK. If you add together all the trucks that they run in the UK, which are HGV, it's 14% of the UK HGV fleet are the people that are involved in our consortium. And what we're doing is we're deploying nearly 100 trucks, just over 200 charge points in 32 sites all across the UK as part of that project. And for my part, as the team has grown, it was 5 when I started a year ago. It's 30 people now. I've been project managing and account managing the other members of that group, and Voltempo essentially run it as the consortium lead party. So are responsible for all the coordination and management of that, feedback into Innovate UK.
That's amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much.
It really
and
is.
from yeah, and from your perspective, in terms of skills that are needed moving into the space, talk us through what sort of skill sets I suppose you have internally within Voltempo, and as this market matures and develops, what skills you see being required in the sector.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cliche, but it's no different from many other businesses. The skills needed as a team to make things work are massively varied. If I was to liken it to anything else, it's not like electric car vehicle charging. That's the biggest misconception we have. And the reason for that is it's not about the technology. Electrical charger going into a battery, the charger's a different size, the battery's a different size. So what? It's actually about understanding the way the logistics businesses need to operate. And so from that point of view, the more important skill is the consultative selling. Remembering you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so doing a lot of listening, because this is new, right? No one has the answer. We are evolving. We are templating and trialing what will work to transfer people from diesel combustion engines over to electric trucks. And they're not a straight swap. They're absolutely not a straight swap. And so one of the things is project management, but as important is relationship management, because there will be some hiccups along the way. Because when you're, I think my old boss used to say, you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs, right? And so managing those relationships carefully, respectfully, again, no different to any other sector, but vitally important when they know their work and actually you're trying to change it with them. That's quite a challenge. We're lucky to have very open-minded, very progressive thinkers in our consortium. And that will get harder as we get into other people that we want to convert and help them on that transition. But it is absolutely a critical skill set. From an engineering point of view, it is quite challenging to think about how to make these things as simple as possible for a truck driver to interface with. Okay, so if anyone's driving an electric car, you've probably got 8 or 9 cards in your wallet or in the dashboard glove box for different schemes, different tags that you need to tap on things. You have a very different experience of some work, some don't work, some are slow, some are fast. We can't have any of that in powering electric freight. That driver needs to turn up, plug in, go and have their break, come back, and the vehicle be ready. No debates, no problems, no excuses. It's a completely different paradigm to charging cars. And so the engineering strength and credibility and support is absolutely business critical, because otherwise we're going to get a lot of freight operators come and say, we've missed our delivery slot, that's cost us money. We've spoilt some goods that were time critical or temperature sensitive on the vehicle, that's cost us money. By the way, you're responsible because you're our infrastructure provider and we're relying on you to make these vehicles do the job that we need them to do. And so that's commercially, that's an important skill set as well in terms of defining those contracts, understanding responsibilities.
Yeah, awesome. Perfect. Thank you.